The call across the stars. The signal was faint at first, static-ridden, broken, almost like the last breath of a dying voice. Astronomers at the Lunar Listening Post detected it before anyone else, a desperate transmission bouncing across the void, encoded in a language no one had heard in decades. At first, they thought it was a fragment of an old military broadcast, a relic from some forgotten war. But as the message was decrypted, its meaning became undeniable. The Threxians were asking for help. This alone shook the galaxy. The Threxians, once feared conquerors, whose war fleets had razed planets and subjugated entire civilizations, were now on their knees. For generations, they had ruled through intimidation and exploitation, draining resources from weaker species, enslaving populations, and boasting of their superiority. To hear them beg was unthinkable. And yet, the message was unmistakable. Disease had spread through their population like wildfire, mutating faster than their medical technology could adapt. Their vast agricultural colonies had collapsed, soil poisoned from centuries of overfarming. Civil unrest erupted as billions starved. The empire that had once struck fear into the stars was now crumbling under its own arrogance. The distress signal was not only a plea. It was an admission: we cannot survive without aid. If any race will hear us, we ask, save us. Across the Galactic Assembly, representatives of countless species debated in hushed tones. Many remembered the scars of Threxian occupation. They remembered the cruelty, the forced labor camps, the planets stripped bare to feed the Empire's hunger. Why should anyone now lift a finger to save them? Some argued the Threxians deserved their fate, that the universe was finally balancing its scales. Others feared intervention would only allow them to rise again, stronger and more ruthless. One by one, species turned away. Too risky, too costly, too dangerous. The distress call echoed unanswered. Except on Earth. Humanity's seat at the Assembly was still relatively new. They had joined only a century earlier, after proving themselves as more than just a young, reckless species with nuclear scars. Their homeworld had survived plagues, climate collapse, wars that nearly tore them apart. And yet, through all of it, humanity had rebuilt again and again. Their resilience was a story that even old empires respected. When the Threxian call reached Earth, the debate was swift and fierce. In the United Earth Council chamber, voices rose and clashed. Generals warned of traps. Economists spoke of the strain aid would place on Earth's resources. Historians reminded them of the atrocities committed by the very people now begging for help. But then the doctors spoke. The engineers spoke. Survivors of Earth's own dark ages stood up and said, "We know what it is to starve. We know what it is to watch the world crumble around us. And we know what it is to hope that someone, anyone, will come." The chamber fell silent. Earth voted unanimously. Humanity would answer the call. But Earth would not simply send food drops or a token medical team. That was what the galaxy expected: minimal charity, just enough to look noble without risk. Humanity had no interest in appearances. They intended to save lives. Within weeks, the largest humanitarian fleet ever assembled left orbit. It was a sight that stunned even their allies. Dozens of medical frigates, each outfitted with entire orbital hospitals. Engineering ships carrying modular construction arrays, water purification systems, and soil reconditioning units. Agricultural transports packed with seeds, hydroponic modules, and genetically engineered crops resilient to Threxian climates. And then there was the fleet. Behind the aid ships moved Earth's warships, sleek, heavily armed, silent as shadows. Their weapons were not powered, their presence not announced, but their message was clear: we come to help. But we are not naive. If you strike at our doctors, you will answer to our soldiers. The galaxy watched as the armada departed. Many whispered that humanity was making a mistake. Others believed they saw the beginning of a new empire, that Earth, like the Threxians, had chosen this moment to extend its dominance. But those who truly knew humanity recognized something different. This was not conquest. This was not politics. This was simply who they were. The Threxian homeworld had once been a jewel of industry and power. Vast spires pierced the clouds, orbital stations ringed the skies, and fleets once blotted out the stars. When the human fleet arrived, what they saw was ruin. Cities lay dark, power grids collapsed into silence. Streets once filled with the roar of machinery now echoed only with the shuffle of the sick and starving. Crops rotted in fields poisoned beyond repair. The proud, predatory Threxians, whose very name once struck fear, now staggered through alleys with hollow eyes and brittle frames. The first human landing party was met not with hostility, but with disbelief. Doctors in white coats and armored medics stepped onto the broken soil carrying crates of vaccines and scanners. Engineers followed, setting up portable generators and clean water tanks. One Threxian elder, her scales dull with malnutrition, fell to her knees before a human doctor, clutching his hands with trembling claws. "Why?" she rasped. "Why would you help us?" The doctor only smiled softly. "Because someone once helped us." From orbit, broadcasts of the landing spread across the galaxy. The galaxy expected arrogance, lectures, or thinly veiled dominance. Instead, they saw humans kneeling beside the sick, administering medicine, teaching Threxian farmers how to use hydroponic kits, and showing children how to purify water with devices simple enough for them to operate. It was compassion unlike anything the Threxians had known. And yet, overhead, Earth's warships lingered, silent guardians in the sky. To the Threxians, this paradox was terrifying and awe-inspiring. The humans brought healing and progress, but they were also the first species powerful enough to force the Threxians to accept it. And so the whispers began. Was this salvation? Or was this the quiet beginning of something greater? For humanity, there was no such distinction. They did not come to conquer. They did not come to humiliate. They came because when someone cried for help, Earth remembered its own scars and answered. But for the Threxians, and for the galaxy watching, one truth became clear. When humanity responded, they never gave only what was asked. They gave more. Suspicion in the ashes. The first weeks after Earth's arrival were chaos wrapped in silence. Humanity's medical teams set up triage stations in the heart of Threxian cities, their holographic banners pulsing with the universal symbol for aid. Portable hospitals rose in a matter of hours, shimmering domes of sterilized air that housed the sick and dying. Vaccines, antibiotics, and gene modifiers flowed from human crates into trembling claws. Engineers deployed water purifiers on riverbanks, restoring clarity to waters that had long run brown with industrial waste. And still, the Threxians watched with unease. To them, every act of kindness was tinged with suspicion. Their history had taught them that aid never came without chains. In their empire's rise, they had offered help to weaker civilizations, technology, protection, trade, and then bled them dry. They knew the weight of obligation, the price of dependence. If humanity came with open hands, surely the chains were hidden somewhere. In the council chambers of the Threxian High Senate, what remained of it, debate raged. "Look at their fleet," one senator hissed, slamming his claw against a cracked stone table. "They come wrapped in armor and firepower, pretending to be healers. Do you think those warships linger above us for our protection? No. They are here to ensure obedience." Another, his scales pale with age, shook his head. "And yet, without them, half our population would already be dead. My daughter lives because of their medicine. I will not spit on the hand that saved her." The chamber erupted, accusations slicing like blades. Some senators claimed Earth sought to enslave them, to replace the Threxian Empire with their own. Others argued survival left them no choice, pride was a hollow thing when children starved. In the end, no consensus was reached. They could only watch, uncertain, as humanity rebuilt what centuries of conquest had destroyed. Among the people, the feelings were no less complicated. A Threxian farmer named Drask stood in the fields, his claws buried in the blackened soil. Once, his family farm had produced grain for entire provinces. Now, the land was barren, poisoned by years of overharvesting and chemical abuse. He spat in disgust when the humans arrived, lugging crates of seeds and nutrient gels. "We do not need their pity," he growled. But when his youngest son tugged at his scales, whispering of hunger, Drask swallowed his pride and accepted the human gift. Weeks later, Green shoots sprouted from his poisoned fields for the first time in decades. Still, he told no one he was grateful. For the humans, the challenge was greater than logistics. It was cultural. Dr. Amina Solori, lead physician of the humanitarian fleet, recorded her frustrations in nightly logs. They do not trust us. Even as we cure their fevers and knit their wounds, they look at us as if we hide daggers in our sleeves. I see gratitude in their eyes, but never spoken aloud. They are a proud people, broken by their own hunger, and they cannot yet accept that compassion might come without a price. She paused often in her recordings, staring out the viewport at the fleet of warships that hung above the world like silent guardians. Perhaps they are right to fear us, she admitted. What other species would bring healers and soldiers in the same breath? Not all Threxians remained silent. General Korvac, one of the last surviving military leaders of the Empire, despised humanity's presence. His fleets had once swept across the stars, now he commanded only fragments of shattered squadrons. From his war bunker deep beneath the capital, he fumed at every broadcast of humans handing out medicine to grateful civilians. They humiliate us, he snarled to his officers. They parade their compassion across the stars while our people grovel for scraps. This is not aid, it is conquest without a single shot fired. His aide, a younger officer with tired eyes, hesitated. And yet, General, the people live. For the first time in years, they live. Korvac's claws tightened into fists. Better to die with honor than kneel with a full stomach. But even as he spoke, he knew his words rang hollow. His own soldiers had lined up in secret at human clinics, seeking medicine for their families. The humans were worming their way into the heart of Threxian society, and no amount of military pride could stop them. Above, in orbit, humanity's fleet received a different kind of attention. Other species watched. Some sent envoys to observe the relief effort, though everyone knew they were spies. Reports flowed back to the Galactic Assembly of Earth's efficiency, their overwhelming preparedness, the seamless way their medics and engineers worked side by side under the protection of a disciplined navy. What is their endgame? Asked a representative of the Oroxi Union. Do they truly mean only to give? A more cynical ambassador replied, no one gives without reason. Perhaps Earth has simply learned that empire built on gratitude lasts longer than empire built on fear. Still, the evidence was undeniable. For every life saved, for every field restored, Earth's reputation grew. To some, this was dangerous. To others, inspiring. On the surface, tensions finally reached a breaking point. It happened in the capital city, where humans had set up their largest relief hub. Thousands of Threxians gathered daily, waiting for medicine, food, or guidance. Among them, agitators stirred whispers, the humans are here to enslave us. They will never leave. When Dr. Solori herself appeared to oversee a vaccine distribution, the crowd surged. Not all in anger, some in desperation, others in hope. But panic spread fast in broken societies. Someone shouted that the humans were poisoning the vaccines. Another claimed Earth had already sterilized an entire district. The mob turned violent. Rocks and shards of metal flew at the human station. Soldiers tightened their grips on stun rifles, preparing to fire. Dr. Solori raised her hands. No weapons, she ordered firmly, her voice steady despite the chaos. No one fires. Not today. She stepped forward, unarmored, into the storm of claws and voices. A rock struck her shoulder, she stumbled, then straightened. Her translator device carried her words through the roar. You think we came to enslave you? To poison you? Then look at me. Strike me down, if you truly believe it. But know this, if I fall, 1,000 more will come. Because this is who we are. We answer cries for help. Even if it kills us. The crowd faltered. Silence rippled through them, broken only by labored breaths. A small voice spoke first, a Threxian child, clutching a vial of human medicine. She saved my brother, the child whispered. Others joined in. A father lifted his daughter, healed of a wasting fever. A farmer held out stalks of new grain. Slowly, the fury dissolved into something else. Not trust, not yet, but the first fragile threads of it. General Korvac, watching the broadcast from his bunker, bared his teeth. "She is winning them," he muttered. "One speech, one cure at a time. If this continues, the Threxians will no longer belong to themselves." And deep within him, a dangerous thought stirred. Perhaps the humans must be reminded of what it means to intervene in another empire's fate. Shadows of rebellion. General Korvac stood before the war map, the holographic display flickering across the scarred walls of his underground bunker. Red dots marked the locations of Earth's medical hubs and supply stations, spread across the ruined cities of his people like veins of light. To his officers, the sight was both awe-inspiring and humiliating. "They have established roots," Korvac growled, his tail lashing in anger. "Every new hospital, every repaired water line binds us tighter to them. Soon our children will look to humans before they look to their own leaders." His claws slammed into the table, scattering shards of rusted metal. "I will not let the Threxian people forget who they are." His plan was simple in theory: expose humanity as frauds. If the people could be convinced that Earth's gifts carried hidden poisons, biological control, sterilization, or mind manipulation, they would turn on their so-called saviors. Korvac's spies had already infiltrated the human relief centers, watching every shipment, every treatment, waiting for an opening. But humans were careful. Too careful. Their medicines healed. Their machines worked exactly as promised. Their soldiers kept their distance unless provoked. So Korvac decided to create the proof himself. The first strike came quietly. A Threxian water distribution site, newly purified by human engineers, was sabotaged under the cover of night. When dawn came, dozens of civilians fell ill, their skin blistering, their lungs burning. Panic swept through the city. Whispers spread like fire: the humans poisoned the water. The engineers protested. They tested the purifiers and found the contamination was artificial. An outside agent had been introduced. But by then, the damage was done. Riots flared, clinics were stormed, and human medics were forced to barricade themselves inside their domes. Dr. Amina Solori stared at the reports with hollow eyes. "We came to heal them," she whispered. "Now they think us butchers." On the streets, mobs chanted against Earth. "Leave our world. We will not be slaves. Death to the deceivers." In one district, a convoy of human relief trucks was ambushed, their supplies stolen, their drivers beaten and left bleeding in the dust. Soldiers begged permission to respond with force, but Earth's High Command issued the same order again and again: hold fire. Humanity had promised to help, not to conquer. But with every act of restraint, Korvac grew bolder. Not all Threxians were blind to the manipulation. Drask, the farmer whose poisoned fields had bloomed again with human seeds, watched the riots with unease. He knew the grain was real. He had fed his children with it. His wife had wept with relief when their bellies were full for the first time in years. "These humans," he muttered, staring at the stalks swaying in the wind. "They do not act like conquerors." His neighbor spat on the ground. "That is their trick. They feed you now so you kneel later. You will see." Drask said nothing. But deep down, he wondered if pride was worth more than survival. Meanwhile, in orbit, the galactic community watched with sharpened interest. Reports of riots, sabotage, and unrest flashed across assembly channels. Some species saw it as proof that Earth's campaign was doomed. Others noted how carefully humanity restrained itself, even in the face of violence. "They bleed, yet they do not strike back," mused an ambassador of the Serathai. Strange. Most powers would have seized the excuse to tighten their grip. Another ambassador leaned forward, voice low. "Or perhaps that is their conquest, winning loyalty not with fear, but with patience." Korvac was not finished. His agents planted explosives near a relief hub in the capital, timed to detonate during a major distribution event. If successful, hundreds of civilians and dozens of humans would die. The blame would fall squarely on Earth. But fate intervened. One of Korvac's saboteurs, a young recruit, hesitated. He had once brought his ailing sister to a human clinic, and she had been healed. When ordered to arm the device, his hands trembled. At the last moment, he fled, running straight into a patrol of human medics delivering supplies. The humans, sensing his fear, questioned him gently. The story spilled out. The bomb was discovered. Dozens of lives were saved. And with that, the fragile tide of public opinion began to shift. Dr. Solori seized the moment. She stood before the cameras once again, her white coat stained with dust and sweat, her voice carrying through translation devices to every corner of Threxian territory. You were told we came to enslave you. You were told our medicine was poison. But look around you. Who planted these lies? Who profits from your fear? She paused, letting the silence build. We are not your rulers. We are not your enemies. We are healers. Engineers. Friends. If you doubt us, doubt openly. Watch every vial we give, test every machine we build. We hide nothing. But know this, we will not stop. Because every life matters even when you raise your claws against us. For the first time, the crowd did not jeer. They listened. Some lowered their heads. Others wept quietly. Korvac's fury was volcanic. They cheer her name, he roared, shattering a control console with a swipe of his claws. They forget the empire that raised them, the warriors who bled for them. They fall to their knees for these soft-skinned aliens. His officers shifted uncomfortably. The tide of opinion was slipping. The humans' resilience, their refusal to lash out, was winning hearts Korvac could not control. And so, with desperation burning in his chest, the general resolved on a final, dangerous gamble. If they will not see Earth as conquerors, he hissed, then I will make them. Let the humans taste war. Let their fleet reveal its true nature. He turned to his officers, eyes blazing. Prepare the remnants of the fleet. We will strike the humans in orbit. If they respond with fire, the galaxy will see them as invaders at last. The bunker rumbled with agreement or fear. It no longer mattered. Korvac had set the course. Far above, in the silent darkness of orbit, humanity's fleet waited. Their orders had been to protect, not to attack. But soon, those orders would be tested. Because General Korvac was ready to light the match.